Right. Morning, everyone. Fantastic Monday morning once again, believe it or not. Another Monday, another week, another month, getting rapidly towards the end of the year. Don't want to influence you in any way, but I think time is running out for 2020. So, and I think our topic of conversation this morning is influence, Lee. I had a friend once who said to me that he believed that all influence was immoral. So let's start off with that thought. So Lee, over to you.
Thanks, Ivan, and hi everyone. Hope you all had a good weekend. Just picking up on what Ivan was saying about the year, there's a new advert for an insurance company that basically says 2020 2.0, like let's restart, let's begin again. So influence. You know, I think it's John Maxwell, and I might be wrong, who speaks about leadership as influence. And I've sort of had that in my mind all along, leadership as influence. But when you think about influence, I must admit that I start going back to what Ivan was saying, is that actually ethical? You know, is there a line that you're drawing at some point in time between influence, and is influence good or bad versus manipulation? And actually it boils down to the fact that we are all influenceable. And that's really where it all stems from. And you don't have to be a leader. We are all influenced by each other and by anything that comes across our path. I just lost my train of thought there for a moment, but so I want to just use an example of an illusionist. I was watching this illusionist, and it was quite fascinating because what he was doing was he was actually giving the clues away as to how he did his and I don't want to say trick, but his performance. And so what he did is he got two women to take him through a particular city. He said, I don't know the city very well. You show me around. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to ask you to do, you just lead me. You decide where we're going to go. You take me where you want to go. And there were three things, but I can only remember two of them. The one was they had to buy a gift for one of the women's mums. They were young women's mums. And then they had to stop at a restaurant that was in the square, any restaurant in the square, and they had to order something off the menu. And he put those, right at the beginning of this little walk, he said, well, I'm going to guess what you're going to buy for your mom and which restaurant you're going to go to and what you're going to order off the menu. And I'm putting them in this envelope. Here it is in my pocket, and we'll see if I'm right at the end of this walk. And they walk out, and he says, okay, which way are we going to go? And they look and they decide, and okay, let's go this way. And then he says, okay, we need to buy the present. Where do you want to go? And you can see they're processing and deciding, and they go into this huge gift shop, pick something off the shelf. Is this, pick something. Eventually they pick this one thing. Then which restaurant should we go to? Okay, let's go to this one here. What do I feel? Do I feel like something to eat? No, I actually feel like something to drink. And they take something off the menu. And then when he takes everything out of his envelope, he has guessed absolutely everything of what they chose. And so it looks like magic. And then he rewinds. And what he's done is he's subtly put in front of them signs, words, little clues that direct them to in that particular way to that restaurant or to that particular gift shop. Or so he's making these subtle suggestions that's influencing their decisions 100%, that they had no clue, that they thought it was in their control entirely. And meanwhile, he was just the puppet master, just through the power of suggestion, putting the right thing in front of them at the right time. And so it goes back to Trevor's story of, sending pictures, sending ideas to his franchisees, and then coming back to him with his own ideas. So I'd love to hear from you. How have you been influenced, or how do you influence others? And is there a line between good influence and bad influence? My phone's talking to me. So
it's going to influence you.
Siri. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yeah, your little story there reminds me of also a clip I've seen of a magician who took 3 social media influencers. So these are 3 young people who had these massive followings on social media, believed they were influencers, and he said, "You believe that you can be influenced?" And they, no, we're the influencers. We don't. And he did pretty much the same sort of thing with them. He got them to each individually go to these random rooms with random stuff and pick a product to show to their social media followings, and a whole bunch of stuff, and they all came back and they'd all done exactly the same thing, and then they were just completely gobsmacked. They couldn't believe how they'd actually been manipulated into this thing, because they were the influencers. So yeah, it's a fascinating concept. Right, so who's our primary influencer in this group? I think it must be Mpulela. So we're going to start with you this morning. I don't want to influence you in any way to kick this off, but yeah, it's over to you.
Yeah, put a man on the spot after he missed Friday. But anyway, I was going to say also that we were missing the silver fox with his cigars that he would smoke in the mornings when we were doing these sessions. But anyway, influence. I guess influence takes shape depending on what the reasons or the desired end for that influence is. And I guess that's what will determine whether that influence is good or bad. Just like money, it is neutral, but depending on the character and the nature of a person, money can either do good or do bad. So I think it would be the same with influence. How do I influence others? For me, so that it's not a manipulation, it always comes down to, do I influence others so that they get to their best self? And for me to be able to influence that way, it means I need to take a bit of time, understand who they are, where do they want to go in life, what dreams do they have, and then influence them to that direction. How do I get influenced? I do look closely at what influences me, and what then I do is to look at the background of whoever I'm listening to as an influencer, because I guess the background gives me a bit about what type of people they are, what do they think of, what do they believe in. So that's what I tend to do on my side. So I do look at the credentials of a person if I'm looking to be influenced by them. And I have to say, I do guard closely who influences me. I used to do that even in high school. I used to look very closely at the kind of friends that I have. And eventually I picked the kind of friends who were very competitive about what results or marks they were getting at school. And that pushed all of us to work so hard, because we all used to compare to each other and say, so for me, credentials support an influencer as to what direction they're influencing to, or if they're manipulating. I hope that's clear.
Thanks, Mpulela. Yeah, it's a question of who decides, I suppose, at the end of the day, and what you're deciding on. So yeah, it's an interesting Interesting direction you've taken us there. So, Jasper, let's see how I can influence you to bring out your best this morning.
You want a long sermon or a short introduction? Now, I was also thinking about the social influencers who get their following, and then I ask myself, how did they get that following in the first place? Are people just so bored stiff that they are just looking for entertainment, and eventually these people become your influencers? And I've never personally experienced it, but I can remember way back there was this big thing about subliminal advertising, where every 20th frame they would put a nice Coke with dripping ice of it, but irrelevant of what the whole thing was about. But then afterwards people apparently go for the Coke. So I've not seen it, I've just heard the stories of it, but I can imagine if this keeps playing off in your mind, then you would like that. And then I was reminded in my mind as well, I think it was my early days, could even be in the army, I was impressed by a guy who was playing around with, being an illusionist. And he had a card trick until he explained to me the card trick. But like you would have one card in his hand, and then you had, you pick your choice of cards, and eventually it's this card in his hand. But then he was leading through questions. So let's say he had a red Queen of Hearts. Then he would start his question by think of any color card. What color card comes up? Black, or I think it was only blue or red or something like that. Then if you say blue, then he's saying that leaves only red, and he carries on. And then he says pick picture cards versus number cards. And every 50% of the time you pick the right grouping of cards, and he just carries on as if you've directed him. But by the way he handles the question, you're impressed that he picked the right, that he led you to pick this card. But the point of this whole thing is a good person leads by questions, so that the questions lead you to where you want to be in the end. And I think ultimately, and I think that's what Mpumelelo was also saying, leading people to be their best. I'm sure, Mpumelelo, you use word pictures, and you paint alternatives in their minds to say, and you paint them into that alternatives and say, if you go this route, this is this, but what if you could become this? And I think influencing is a fight, is going to happen anyway. It's how we use it. And I think our lives in itself, as parents and grandparents, we are influencing our kids, the way we walk, if we smoke, if we drink, the things we like. So I think influencing is important, and we need to understand how it works, but I think influencing is also a big responsibility.
Thanks, Jasper. I think the signs are all around us. Subliminal advertising is everywhere, even though it was declared illegal, 40, 50 years ago when it first came out. So, Ed, let's hear your thoughts on influence.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit controversial today. I think the great Albert Einstein said that example is not a way of influencing others, it's the only way of influencing others. But I would tend to disagree with him, so that's the controversial bit. When I'm volunteering on children's breaks, one of the things I do is say to them that being able to do sums in your head is very, very useful life skill. Let's see if you can, if you're any good at it. I said, yeah, let's practice some mental arithmetic. So I say to them, you're driving a bus. When it leaves the bus station, there are 5 passengers on it. The first bus stop, 3 get off, 2 get on. The next bus stop, 7 get on and 4 get off. At the next bus stop, 3 get on and 2 get off. What's the name of the bus driver? And no one ever gets the answer right. even though every single person knows the answer. You are driving a bus. And what I've done is, by suggesting we're going to do something about mathematics, they focus on the numbers and ignore the non-numeric information. And it's very easy to do that. And I think as a boss, as a leader, as a manager, if you start a meeting where you want ideas and speak first, you are going to influence people to ignore whatever it is you haven't said. So, you know, they will think of numbers rather than thinking, I am driving that bus. So I think actually we have to be very careful how we use our influence if we want to get information, get ideas, get up. If we want to control things, then it's a whole different ball game. But I think we just have to be careful if we are in a position of influence, and it can be anything: a parent, a boss, a council leader, whatever. Just be careful what you say, because you can shut down lots of opportunities.
Oh, great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, that's I've heard many versions of that story, but it's always interesting how people miss that first part about you are driving the bus, isn't it? It's how we direct the minds. Absolutely. So let's get across to Donovan next. Donovan, are you a man of influence, or are you a man of being influenced?
Thanks, Ivan. I think I must admit that, the second part of your question, I'm normally influenced. I'm not good at influencing others. I tried several times to influence my daughters when I want to watch a particular channel on TV. I always got it wrong. So I just gave up on being an influencer. But I try my best not to be influenced in the wrong direction. If it's something good, then I just let myself go and follow the lead. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Donovan. Right, Cecile, let's get across to you next.
I must confess, I love those illusionist things, and I am totally gullible by those things. I am happily led along, and my mouth will gape in awe of what they achieve. But interesting, one thing that our sensei plays with us, talking about the bus driver, plays with because there's often children in our class as well. At the end of the class, he would say, touch your nose, touch your chin, touch your eye, touch your ear, touch your chin. And you cannot believe, even that game is played so often, but the people still follow exactly what they see instead of what he tells you to do. So I've learned to listen very carefully when he does that. And when this conversation started, I thought to myself, I don't know what to say. But then as people were talking, I'm starting, as people started talking, I realized my husband always says me and my sister, because he always clumps you twins together. We influence a lot of things that happen around our lives. I don't know how, why. I don't often think of it as influencing. I just think of it as speaking my mind, trying to sway people to get to. I don't try and bamboozle or the rest of the family. I just try to gently sway people to my point of view. But that's a very interesting topic.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Yeah, and if they don't gently sway to your point of view, you might just give them a karate chop. Yeah, it's
actually I'm quite peaceful with that. I mean, I'm very peaceful when it comes to that. I haven't given anyone a club yet.
Good. All right, let's get across to someone a bit more gentle. So Stella, let's get across to you.
I'm glad you think I'm gentle. Morning, everyone. Yeah, so there were so many things going through my mind when everybody and Lee was talking. And I remember the only person that I think that I was really like a follower and she influenced me was way back when, I think I was 13, 14, Lady Diana, when she got engaged to Prince Charles, and it was such a romantic story. And I couldn't wait every week for the huisgenoot to cut all the pictures out of her and put it in a plaque book and scrapping book. And I even cut my hair like her, and it was just amazing for me. And then when she got divorced, I was totally devastated. I couldn't believe that this fairy tale ended like that. And of course, the death was very. I was very saddened by it. But it was only a couple of years while I was in school that I really followed. And thereafter, not really. And I always thought that because I'm not allowed or very social media influencing people, but funny enough, I think by your actions, you can have an impact on people without even realizing it. So I want to tell you a story. Years ago, when I just finished my my honors in accounting, and there was in finance, not in my department, but within the bigger finance team, there was a lady, Tobeka. She was also doing, I think she was doing her 3rd year in accounting. And we talked, and she came to ask me some advice. And I remember how many hours it took. So you've got the tax act and all the accounting books. It's a whole stack like this. And you've got to flag it and go through the book and highlight and put flags, because when you do exams, you've got to know where to look. And I knew it took so much time to do that. And I said to her, you know what, you can take my books and just copy it over for yourself. And I knew that saved her a lot of time. And so anyway, so I borrowed her the book. She gave it back to me. She would ask me questions, and that was it. And then later on, she left the company. And then just before I left the company, she actually came back to the same company. And then she came to me the one day and she said to me, you know what, you influenced me so much. I looked up to you, and I knew that you did all the studying, and you became a CA, and you were working, and you had kids, and you were married. She says, I'm not even married, but because of you, I wanted to also become a CA, and she became a CA, and she came back to the country, to the company. And that was so touching for me, that with just by helping somebody, you actually influence them. So that was a good story for me. I just also want to say, I think it also depends a lot on your personality, whether you will be influenced. I'm thinking specific about my son. He never had a crowd of friends. He had a small group of friends, but I remember the one day, one of his friends' mother, we became friends, and she said to me, you know what, my son is Yaku, and her son is, sure, no, I forgot the name, but say Louis. Louis says he so appreciates the relationship what they got, because when he asked Yaku, let's go out or do whatever, and Yaku doesn't want to do it, he will tell him straight, no, I don't feel like doing it, and never take offense to it. But you know, so he was never influenced, this child, where my daughter was a bit different as a teenager. So I think it depends a lot on the personality. Till this day, my son, if he doesn't want to do anything, no matter if the whole world is doing it, he won't do it. So yeah, so I think the personality also plays a part whether you can be influenced. I think I talked a lot today, sorry.
Thanks, Stella. Right, Kevin, let's get across to you.
Okay, morning everyone. I think influence you can start from very early in life, accidentally, a bit like what Aid said a few days ago, about children. What you do as adults, your children will tend to do the same, and you can subtly influence their behaviour and what they do in their younger life. But moving forward to business and later life, I mean, I definitely can't say I'm influenced by the masses. I'm more of a outside of the sheep, if you want, if that's a good phrase. I don't follow the masses, but it comes back to, I think, to know, like, and trust. I mean, I'm influenced in business by, I'll call her my mentor, if you like. Known her for a few years, know, like, and trust. She said, come and join me in this business. So I don't need to look at the business. I go and join them in that business. And it's a very rare, I think it's a very rare scenario to have that much influence by knowing and liking and trusting someone. So from both ends of the spectrum, right from the very small children influence right through to the business end. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Kevin. And you're definitely not trying to influence any of us by wearing a T-shirt that says "Born to Run." So, right, Master, let's get across to you next.
Okay, thanks. Thanks and good morning to everybody. Yeah, what the topic, it takes me back to where the gentleman that was started defining culture and what culture and strong culture and weak culture. And I think also with influence, there is some form of definition that we must find to be able to see how we are influencing other people, whether we influence them badly or we influence them for the good, or we strongly influence them, or weakly influence them. And maybe to touch on Stella's example, I mean, where she looked up to this Princess Diana and stuff like that, and later in her life something very drastic that turned out to be bad, almost shattered his life. And that is one of the things about influence, is that in your early days you look up to this person as your role model, and he influences the way you do things. But because things do happen in life, suddenly this person changed to something else that you also do not even believe in. So yeah, I think the whole topic of influence, I mean, we are also influenced at different levels. You can be influenced in your early age. There are a number of things that influences you. My father used to say to me, hey, you don't have to have a lot of friends. Just have one friend or something like that. And he would even say to me, don't go into that particular family. Then I did not understand. I thought he was not cool, because, as a young person, you think you are cool. Your father is not cool. So when he says don't do this, or don't be in this particular area of people, they will influence you in this way, I ignored that. And later on in my life, I just regretted. I almost lived in regret, because I did not listen to him to say who is your sphere of influence. So yeah, we are influenced. We influence others. And I mean, for 20 years, I mean, just one little example as I conclude is, when the whole thing of divorce hit me, quite a lot of people came to me and said, no, it cannot be you. It cannot be you. It cannot be you. Everybody else, we have been looking up to this couple. I mean, some of us, our marriage has been restored. Because of you, because of your influence. I mean, somebody said to me, you came to us and you talked to us, and today we are happy, but this is what I did to you. So you may be influencing people and something just hit you like a lightning, and all of a sudden you shatter a lot of people, you know, lives because of something that you totally do not have control over.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the question is, you know, do you start down that road or not? You know, because you never know when that lightning will strike. Eh? So you've just got to go. You got to go forward anyway. Right. So I think we over to Trevor now to hear how he's going to influence the group today.
I'm trying to influence by disappearing and being mysterious. Yeah, I think I made a comment there in the chat facility that I believe just as we role models to everybody by what we do and what we don't do, we by extension are influencing by what we do and what we don't do, and that everyone and everything is influencing us, which just highlights how attuned we've got to be to this concept of influencing, manipulation, because there are people who use their influence to manipulate things that they want to achieve. And I think that's what those hypnotists and magicians, what they demonstrate is happening in society. And I have witnessed individuals manipulating communities and societies by their professional positions. And I'm going to mention the profession of advocate, who had people eating out of his hands, and he was manipulating an entire community down a direction that this community did not understand they were going. And the entire community, almost the entire community, could not see it. Thankfully, someone stepped up and tripped him up in the middle of his game. I won't mention who that is. And you need to be aware. In fact, I think in South Africa right now, we are all under gross manipulation, and that we need to be highly aware of it, and we need to be taking decisions for ourselves, because some people might not actually disagree with the manipulation that's taking place at the moment. They might actually enjoy it. So it depends on what you as an individual, how you actually use this savvy to interpret whether the influence on you is good for you and society, or whether it's going to drag you and society down. It just links to ways that I'm thinking. I'm not trying to manipulate. I just had a serious thought over the weekend. I can't remember what the thought was. I'm trying to influence the future direction of what I wonder what people have as what they think is their greatest strength throughout their lives, and what is their greatest weakness. No, but let me not talk about that.
Sure. As usual, Trevor puts it out very clearly, doesn't confuse anybody, makes it easy to understand, and clearly hasn't influenced anybody's thinking this morning. So thanks for that, Trevor. So just to end off on a light note, some of you may have seen this, but I want to show you something very quickly. So I'm going to put up a share screen, and I want you to focus, you know, and very carefully, and make sure you do exactly as you're told. So have a look at this. Some of you may have seen it, but it's a bit of fun just to end off. You all got that?
Count how many something. I can't read anymore. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go. How many of you saw the gorilla the first time around? Put your hands up.
But we've
How many,
seen
Chris?
this before.
How many of you seen this before, though?
The very first time I saw it, I did not see the gorilla.
Yeah, me too. The first time I saw it, I didn't, but this time at least I did.
That's a bit
Sure.
like Ed's bus driver story. So I just thought I'd end up on that one, see if we can influence you. So fantastic, folks.
And the moral of that story is that influencers and manipulators tend to make a monkey out of you. So be careful.
Absolutely, yeah. And you got to watch out for that one. So Lee, what's on the cards for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I'd like us to maybe go down. I was thinking about media and how media and news, and we've apparently a third of the world's population is on Facebook. That's a lot of influence that one company has. And just so and Trevor, yes, I hear you that you're very afraid. So I'd like us to think about it, and it goes back. One of the things that I found absolutely fascinating when right at the beginning, so this time 4 years ago, in the US election, so prior to Trump being elected, one of his sort of supporters, Newton Grinch, I think he was the head of the Federal Reserve, and he was being interviewed by the Chicago Tribune, and they were saying to him, Trump is going on this Make America Great Again, based on, that's right, Gingrich, make America Great Again, because and is saying that crime, we are being inundated by crime, and this crime rates are through the roof. But statistics prove that over the last 20 years, and specifically in the last 6 to 8 years, crime has plummeted in the United States. So it's proven fact that crime is down in America, lower than it's ever been. And Newt's response to that was, but that's not what the people believe. And so it's this, and then of course we've now got this fake news, and the news, and what Trump is now influencing is that mail votes will be fraudulent. Well, it's a system of voting that has existed in the States for years and years and years. And because he's now repeating this over and over again, despite the fact that it is blatant, it's not even subtle manipulation, right? It's blatant. But because of what people see in him, they are just agreeing. Yes, oh yeah, no, mail voting is fraudulent. So I'm just using those as examples. I should be using these tomorrow to set up the conversation, but I'm hoping for us to have this conversation about the media and how does it influence us, and how are people using media. Think about social media influencers, thinking about the big CNN used to be this big media influencer. Now it's Facebook, or why is TikTok now suddenly wanting, people want to ban TikTok? Is it just because it's owned, Chinese owned? So let's throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Let's have some nice, good, happy, controversial conversations around, these big influences through media companies.
Right, thanks, Lisa. I'm really confused now. So if male votes in the US are fraudulent, does it mean only the female ones are counted?
You guys are so funny.
All right. No, good. Okay, folks, have a fantastic day further, and we'll see you on social media tomorrow morning. Go well. Cheers.